Good evening. Welcome to the bus home for Celtic 4, Falkirk 1. Do not adjust your sets. I am the driver this evening. As you can see, I've got my L plate up in the corner there. So if anybody's driving in front of me or behind me, please be kind. Don't toot your horn. I'm doing my best. I've got qualified driver in the background there just to keep me right in David Logue. And I'm joined tonight, delighted to be joined tonight by the Punked Up Warlord, Liam Greenlaw. Liam, you're in your normal Friday night slot. Albeit different host and a game to talk about. So we drew Falkirk last year in the same stage of the cup, drew them again this year. What's your initial thoughts on the result?
I mean, first off, being on a Friday when we've actually had a game, that means for me there was drink involved. So I don't have the fancy optics like you, but I've got the Bulgarian rakia on the go tonight. Thoughts on the game? Honestly, it was an enjoyable game, Terry. I thought the football was good. I thought we some of our finishing earlier on, it looked like we were trying to work our way into the game, but the amount of chances and I was well pleased with that. I mean, you could have had 4 or 5 players could have been the man of the match. I thought Kearney would have been in with a shout. I thought CARRMAGEDDON had a good game. Overall, Terry, I enjoyed that game. Honestly, just to see a game in a pub and drink with other guys, and there was 2 couples there from Scotland and some new people, and so brilliant to see Celtic now. During normal hours when you can actually have a drink at the game.
Yeah, good stuff. It's a good time for you. And just before we go into the detail, we'll remind you to do all that good stuff. So like, share, shows that you care. If you want notifications each time we go live, hit the bell button. Get involved in the comments, and if you want to subscribe, no extra content, but it helps us put diesel in the tank. So we'll have a look at the lineup, Liam. Tonight's team. So 6 changes. So Sinicello came in for Kasper Schmeichel. Dean Murray came in off the back of a fresh contract signed today. Austin Trusty came in for Liam Scales. Kieran Tierney and Alistair Johnson both kept their places in the starting lineup. Callum McGregor, as always, was there. Arnie Engels comes in for his first start, as did Luke McKeon. And the only change up front was Johnny Kenny replacing the mannequin that is Adam Uder.
That you've been kind.
Thoughts on the lineup, Liam?
Well, I thought Dean Murray was a surprise, but when you see him getting a new contract, I thought he fit in well. So if I'm looking at Dean Murray coming into that team, I thought he looked really good. I like a fullback when he does pass the ball. There's a bit of a ping about it, like it was a laser. And I could see him doing that throughout, and then the goal was, justification. Kenny, I'm no surprised. I was surprised that Ida didn't come on, but we'll talk about that later as well. But so that was it. I mean, it was sort of what I expected for a game before a big game, But we still had the big players playing, The 3 players that are most important to us right now is, I think, Tierney, McGregor, and Maeda. CCV missing for the lineup. Yeah, we didn't need him today. And honestly, I thought Dean Murray played really well today. What did you think of him?
He's a big, strong boy, Liam. I seen him in the interview after the game. He's head and shoulders way above Alistair Johnson, who's not a big lad, but Murray's got a real stature about him, and the manager obviously he clearly likes the guy. He sees something in him, and despite the fact that we've now got quite a few centre backs, we've quite a few to choose from. Celtic offering him a new deal. The manager clearly sees something there that he thinks he can work with and he can develop. It's not one of those 5-year contracts that some of the new signings come in on. So he's here till 2028. So I think it's one of those ones where it's long enough that the manager's showing a faith and the club are showing a faith in him, but it's short enough that if he doesn't develop at the anticipated rate, then we're not tied in for a long period of time. And I can't imagine he's he's too much of a burden on the wage bill. So it'd be great, it'd be great to see another young lad come through from the youth team. They're very few and far between nowadays. So I've no issue with Dane Murray being part of the first team squad, and there's a bit of competition there now because he's clearly someone that the Celtic think quite highly of. Carter Vickers is obviously the main man. I expect Simpson Fusey to be coming in to play first team football, and then you've got Scales and Trusty on top of that, and it'll be interesting to see how good Simpson Fusey is. I haven't seen an awful lot of him, but he just fits the profile of the type of centre half that Man City have regularly brought through from their youth system. Not very many actually make it into their first team, but they do go on to have good careers at a good level somewhere else. And that'll probably be what happens to this lad. But it'll be interesting to see what stage of his development and his journey he's at age 19. Is he able to come in and Celtic first team? Is he going to be an upgrade on what's already there? Is he going to make us stronger for the Champions League?
It's funny. The fact he's not up to speed yet. I mean, he's had a full pre-season with Man City. Now, how's he not up to speed yet?
Well,
that's the part I don't understand.
They had a strange pre-season because if you remember, their season was extended by the World Club Cup.
That's right.
So when they came back, they really only got their break after that, which was probably about 3 to 4 weeks after their league actually finished. So the teams that played in that tournament have only really come back in the last 2 weeks, and have only played maybe 2 pre-season games. So if he was involved in that squad, or if he, if he's been training with the first team squad and they weren't back, then that might explain why he's a little bit behind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, good to see him in, but. Yeah, overall, I thought the back line looked pretty good today. If you looked at the four and the back four, I think the poorest one at the four was Trusty. I thought Alistair Johnson's came back into the form that he had when he first came and he came off the World Cup with Canada when he started with Ange. And I thought Alistair Johnson was really good. I think, somebody said in the pub, I went to the toilet or something, but was he the man of the match?
He got the Premier Sportsman of the Match award, yeah.
Well deserved. I thought his goal was peach, brilliant. But I just liked the way he was moving up, and I think Tierney as well. Like, he gives us a whole balance to that side. That now we're starting to see a back four where we don't have the weak link anymore.
You've read my mind. I was going to touch on some of the individual stuff a wee bit later, but whenever you've mentioned those two, let's look at it now. What really, really struck me tonight, and to be fair, it has done in the 3 games that I've watched, is how high Johnston and Tierney are both playing. And you've seen tonight, Alistair Johnston scored 1, but he could have scored more. And Tierney has been playing in each of the games that we've seen this season. He's been playing like an outside left, and both of those are. They're just like 2 extra attackers, and in a juncture where we're struggling for wide players, those two are like 2 extra wingers. It's almost like we've got 2 wingers on each side.
Yeah, I noticed that as well because you see how that affects Maeda's game as well. Before that goal, he had a couple of other chances as well where he's moving more into the middle because. Tierney sort of does that job for him. Tierney's doing the overlap. Tierney's taking it to the byline. And some of his crosses in were brilliant. And it's nice to see that Maeda now is anticipating that and getting into the box for some of these crosses as well, so that we're not just relying on the striker. I mean, I still think Maeda's their best striker, and I like to see him in the box, and I like to see him score tonight. But the quality of the service we will get for the wings, both are fullbacks tonight, as you just said. I thought it was brilliant, and that makes it an enjoyable game. I mean, you still go off your head when you keep missing chances and that, and stuff like that, no. But yeah, the quality was there, and I love to see the balls coming in,
And touching back on Kenny there, so he gets another chance to prove himself. Again, I want the guy to do well. I want everybody to do well when they play in a Celtic jersey. But I don't see it. I don't see anything there that's telling me that he's got any kind of shout on being our striker this season. It's gonna be really interesting to see how the next few weeks play out. There's one or two things has to happen. Either we go out and we get a first choice striker, or we go out and get two wingers, which then allows Gaizan to move into the middle.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know, there was one point earlier on, I think it was like 12 minutes or so, and where he had a one-on-one with one of their fullbacks. It was a brilliant ball. We managed to release it really fast. I think it was McCown. McCown played well in it and all. McCown released the ball to him, and he was one-on-one, and he should have been able to turn him, and it just looked like, it looked like one of the guys that, like, right, he's no got that, I don't know, mental fortitude or physical stamina to get past the guy, push past him and take it. He ended up doing a wee bit of trickery and all that, but he got off a very weak shot. I thought as well as his heading in the front, well, there was a few balls that came to him that I think should have been buried. But again, that's what you get. I mean, I've no gave up on him yet. I like the speed, but he didn't need speed today. Today was all about just being able to receive passes and bury them. And yeah, he didn't do that, did he?
No, not for me. Not for me. And we've got three guys there who all sort of had Ida didn't get any game time tonight, but you've got Kenny, you've got Shin, fleeting appearances for him. Again, haven't seen anything really to suggest he's going to be the main man either. So we'll need to see how that one plays out. Let's look at some of the key moments in the game, Liam. So game kicked off. I thought Celtic started well. We were busy. We were on the front foot. As I say, Tierney was marauding forward and left. Johnston marauding forward on the right. We had a few chances, a few shots. Young guy in nets for Falkirk. Had a good game. Somebody we could maybe look at.
Yeah, you never know. It could be a next Benjamin Seacrest.
I think Scott Bain got more action on Celtic Park pitch tonight than he got in the whole time he was with the club. I didn't realize it was him until about 10 minutes in, because I didn't see the build up, and I didn't realize it was him. There was a few saves, and I was going, he isn't going to be one of these keepers here. And then I realized it was Bain, and I thought, we'll be all right here. Arnie Engels hits the woodwork with a shot from outside the box. What did you make of Arnie Engels? What do you make of Arnie Engels' performance tonight? I'll give you my thoughts first of all.
Aye.
He looked like someone had a point to prove. I thought he was energetic. There was an intensity about his play. He was all action. Even when we were well ahead and the game was getting into the later stages before he got took off, he was running to get the ball for throw-ins and things. I think his nose has been put out a wee bit out of joint by Negrin. What's your thoughts around Engels' performance, Liam?
I think the performance of Negrin, McCown and Hatate have all, maybe you're right, lit a fire under him. I thought his corner kicks tonight were absolutely brilliant. So many quality, so much quality was put into the box from both sides. I thought he was great. I thought that free kick, I mean, it didn't just hit the bar and bounced out. It hit the underside of the bar. And, I was just saying to one of the guys in the club, that was the last time we scored for a corner. And I didn't really have a lot of faith in Engels taking it. And then when I saw that corner, I go, wow, okay, that was a very, very good, And, Bain wasn't far away from it, but he put it just where he possibly could. And if it was maybe just half an inch, that would have been in. And we'd be talking about Engels differently. But I thought, yeah, you're right. He looked like he had a bit of a point to prove. I mean, he did have one. He did have that one in the second half where the ball came across, and I think Johnson fired one across, and he was right on the line, and it was a weird. It sort of hit off his face. It would be easier for it just to hit you and go into the goal than it was to actually keep it out. So, but you're right. It looks like that's what he needs, right, Terry? There's a lot of these players in Celtic that I thought has been complacent for a long time. And he looks like one of them as well. And I think just like sitting him out and, maybe a couple of games or not starting him, yeah, he needs to sort of get that into the fact that, he's a high-priced player that's came into Celtic, and this is the second season. We're expecting big things from him. And
His
so,
delivery,
good.
His delivery was good. The balls into the box from free kicks and corners, there was a real whip on it. There was lots of intent. All too often, he's taking these set pieces and he's hitting the front man, and they're getting cleared too easy. There were a couple that weren't great, and there was one moment towards the end where he kind of fell over himself. But I generally thought his work ethic, his intensity, and his use of the ball was very, very good. And I think it's come from being left out, and he kind of came in last season, and him, Hatate, and McGregor, when they were fit, most of the time they were the three, and now at the start of this season, he's found himself on the bench, and you've just got to hope that has lit a fire under him, because the best thing that we could possibly have is McGregor, Hatate, Negrin, Engels, McKeon, all playing well at the same time. And then
you left out
Bernardo as well. No, I didn't forget about him, but he kind of, out of them all, he's kind of been the one that's been used the most sparingly. So at the minute, he's number 6. You just hope then when he gets his opportunity that he has got the same intensity and is able to lift his levels. Because if you've got all six of them are very, very good footballers. But if you've got all 6 of them all playing well at the same time and pushing each other on, then no matter what 3 go in there, it's going to give you good levels, and it gives the manager the option of picking and choosing. It's going to be a long season, Liam. Hopefully we've got is it 4 games in this to get to the final. You're hoping to get the same in the Scottish Cup, so that's nine cup matches. You've got your full league season, and then fingers crossed you've a Champions League campaign on top of that. So there's lots and lots of games to utilise the squad. What you want is everybody to be able to come in, and when they're called upon, they're able to deliver.
And I think
2 minutes later, Dizan breaks deadlock for us.
Yeah.
Kieran Tierney gets the assist. Cracking ball from Callum McGregor. Great pick out. How did you see that one?
Love it. There's nothing better. There's nothing better or sexier than on a diving header. And I like the way that Maeda throws himself at balls when he's in the area. That's why I want him to be our first choice striker. He's brave. He gets in there. I thought there was a few balls that came to Johnny Kenny where there was one earlier on, the very first chance, where I'm thinking he could have threw himself and done that. And what you seen with Dyson's goal was him doing exactly what Kenny should have done. Throwing himself at the ball, making it, giving the keeper no chance. And I'm really hoping that, it was good to see us. You've seen an understanding forming tonight between our 2 fullbacks and the players in the middle about these cutbacks. It looks like that's going to be a big part of our game, and I hope it is, because I think that's where if we're playing our first choice players, we'll be able to dominate teams with that. Not so sure in Europe, but it does give us an added weapon to the arsenal as well of taking teams and stretching them, because I think I'm hoping Johnson really learns to be in the mirror image of Kieran Tierney. You know what I mean?
Whenever he spoke about Tierney there, he was saying how he'd obviously knew about him from his time in, he knew about him as a Premiership player playing for Arsenal, but he said he was a little surprised that Tierney was so small in terms of physical stature, but you couldn't help but think he's the type of player that Johnson perhaps looks up to. And even though Alistair Johnson, we would regard him as an excellent player in his own right, and he is, having Kieran Tierney there might actually take him up a level as well, even though he's playing on the other side, even though they're not directly in competition. He's getting to train with someone who has played at Premiership level, and that might bring out improvement in him. And Alistair Johnson is good enough that if there's another 5% or 10% improvement in him, that would take him to a really good level as well.
Well, remember, he plays fullback on the opposite side as Alphonso Davies of Bayern Munich. You know, so there is that sort of mentorship for him available so that he can progress into his game. And I'm hoping last year was just an anomaly with the injuries. I mean, a hip injury, pelvis, I mean, that's hard. You know, you played football as well, Terry. It's like, you know, the knees you can play through the pain and all that, but a hip one, it's always so awkward when you try to run and you tackle and that. And to see Ali Johnson, I was very hard on him last year. I thought by his standards he didn't have a very good season. But what I've seen him come back this year with that little bit of extra rest, maybe it's because he's married now, whatever it is, you know, World Cup's coming up to Canada, he's got to up his game. And I'm really, really glad that he's starting to show that right now, because I was worried about him last year that maybe playing for a big team like Celtic would went to his head. You know, like going from Montreal to Celtic, that's a hell of a golf, you know. And so, yeah, I was glad to see him playing well, and I hope he sees this season as his breakout year, because it is a World Cup season and it's in his home country. I'll be there.
Smell the Glove makes an excellent point. So we obviously know the improvements that Kieran Tierney brings in terms of being our first choice left back, but the standards that he then brings to the training ground. He's another captain on the pitch. He might not be wearing an armband, but you know when he's there, you can just imagine what he's like in training. He'll be playing with the exact same intensity as he will on match day. The other guys will see that. Start to look around the pitch, and this hasn't always been the case, but you've got leaders across different areas. So you've got Schmeichel in goal, who's a leader. Carter Vickers, in his own quieter way, is a leader, just with his his sheer presence. McGregor is the captain. You've then got Tierney. Johnson has also got leadership qualities. Even Maeda, to a certain extent, on that left-hand side, just with his endeavour and his work rate, that's got to be an inspiration to players all across the pitch. And if you're a young lad, either playing in the same team or sharing the same training ground, and you see the way these guys go about their day-to-day business, can you imagine Maeda and Tierney in training coming up against each other even?
Aye.
So I think it's something we've talked about quite a lot with Celtic, that we lack leaders. But you look around that dressing room now, and there are some characters there, and we're going to need every single one of those, because when the chips are down, which they no doubt will be in numerous games in the upcoming 9-10 months, it's those kind of guys that you're looking to drag the rest of the players through and to guide them through, to mentor them through, as you said, mentorship. You can't underestimate, aside from their playing ability, you can't underestimate the importance of having as many leaders as you can get into that dressing room.
Especially, I mean, look at the profile of Tierney as well. I mean, it's a guy who's played at the highest level. He's an international football player, played with Arsenal. But here's the guy that came back to play for the club he loves. So that's an extra element. You don't get many guys in your team that have came here on their own accord. I mean, you look at, he recruited himself into Celtic. I don't think that was any great work by Lalo or Nicholson or anything like that. This was Kieran Tierney that wanted to come back to Celtic because he didn't want to ever leave. And I think when players are around that, and you're seeing somebody that's no there as a mercenary and is doing well to make his next move. No, he did well, and his next move was to come back to the club he loves. So I think that adds an extra dynamic when you're looking at leadership and people on the park. And as a fan, you love to see that as well. It's like, it's Roy the Rovers, Jimmy Grimble, all that sort of stuff. It's like you want to see that. And for him to be a leader on the park, he'll be here long after Rodgers or any of these people that come in and go. He is Celtic, and I think that is a great way for people to look up to. And I think it's also created a resurgence for the Scottish players in the team as well. I think he's probably he's motivating them first. I thought Callum McGregor and James Forrest had a great game. Dane Murray, McCowan, we're starting to see a bit of a Scottish identity back in the team as well, which is, I think, a team like Celtic always needs. And as a fan, it's something, me being Scottish, Terry, is you always want to see,
Alan comes in lame around Inamura, and it is worth touching on because he came in, the manager dismissed him straight away. Then we were surprised by him, and I think we were all reasonably intrigued with what we've seen. He looked to have the basics, but from when the competitive action has started, there's been no sign of him, and the vibe seems to be now that he will go out on loan. Are you surprised by that based on what you've seen?
I'm surprised on it, but I'm not surprised with Rodgers in that way. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of Rodgers, Terry. There's times where I just look at Rodgers and I think it's a stubble, egotistical man that does some stupid stuff and he talks a lot of shite at times. And when I look at him, I look at the pre-season that he's had and why he's dropped. It's like, oh, if that's a message to the board or whatever it is, I don't know. I hate these games. I hate these games that we're sending messages. And what you always want to see, what I want to see as a fan, I want to see people that are there in meritocracy, people that have merit to be in the team, that have played well to get into that position and not just thrown in because you're Rodgers' favourites. I don't think Liam Scales has done particularly bad at left back. I was always one of these people last year that was like pushing for Liam Scales to replace Greg Taylor. And by the way, how good does Celtic look like now with a competent left back when we're not getting targeted doing that side with every free kick, every corner, everything? Nobody's wanting to go down their left side. The amount of tackles Kieran Tierney made on players running back, and you said about my ad as well, was his work rate. There was one as well, and like after I think he scored his goal, where he ran back right practically to the corner flag to tackle a guy and take the ball off. And there was a lot of time where we were getting a lot of really good, we were overturning the ball on that, and that was really good to see as well. That made me happy. I mean, honestly, see for a game on a Friday, you can get have a drink. I enjoyed myself.
Here, do you know something? Game. Do you know something?
What?
Took you 28 minutes to mention Greg Taylor's name on a Friday night.
It took Jerry McCulloch 2 minutes. I can't even. So every game I've watched in this year. Thanks, David. Cheers, David. Every time I've watched a game this year, Jerry McCulloch is out there explaining like what Kieran Tierney's bringing to the game instead of Greg Taylor. And then last week after the game, I watched Chris Boyd and Chris Sutton talking about the game as well, and it was like how Kieran Tierney compares to Greg Taylor. It's like this arrogance about Greg Taylor getting interviewed in the Celtic way. That it's like, can we not just let this guy go, please? Come on.
You need to let him go. You need to let him go.
It's like a fart in a spacesuit. You will need to disappear, Terry. I can't get rid of him in my life, you know. And then my boy was in Falkirk. My boy was in Greece last month as well, you know, and he was watching the game and stuff like that. And it was like he was talking to a Celtic fan, like, oh, Greg Taylor's there here and stuff like that. Oh, just kind of get away from him.
You mentioned Rodgers talking pish. I've always said it. He talks absolute nonsense. And I was listening to him in the pre-match press conference for this game. And if you remember back to when he came back for the second time, and he was asked about what he wanted to bring in, what type of player he wanted to bring, and he kept talking about power. He's always talked about power. I want to bring in power. I need power. I need players with power. He was asked about John McGlynn's Falkirk team, and he was talking about the technical ability of him and the way that McGlynn gets him to play. But he turned around and he said, technique beats power every time. And I thought, well, why are you always talking about bringing power in if you think, you know, he just spouts absolute nonsense. But anyway.
Was it Conor McGregor says, was it precision beats power, timing beats speed after they knocked out Jose Aldo?
He talks piss as well.
Yeah, I know, but that part is true. Precision is better than power. And that's it, just getting that right person for the right spot rather than just having somebody run a bit daft. And then timing beats speed. You know, as well, you can be the fastest player in the park, but you can be offside all the time. So, I don't know. I see that with Tierney. Tierney's got the better of both, right? He's got the precision, got the power. And I just hope that's the direction we're moving in. Did I see that for Falkirk? I thought their best player was Calvin Miller. And I was looking at a few ex-Celts in the park that are playing with that Falkirk team. Bain, Nisbet, might be some air as well. But I thought Calvin Miller played really well. And I remember, was he not a left back for us at one time?
Calvin Miller came through the ranks at Celtic. There were a few ex-Celtic players tonight. We've touched on Bain. There was Calvin Miller. There was also Ian Nisbet. And just after we've taken the lead, within about 60 seconds, Calvin Miller then has an effort on Celtic's goal. And I've seen it a few times. I thought that was a pretty decent save from Vinny Sinsalo. And over the piece, I thought he had quite a sound game. He probably had more to do than he might have expected. What's your thoughts around Sinsalo? I think the decision's been made, but I think there was a decision. There was a bit of deliberation that needed to take place because Schmeichel's obviously extended for this season. The thought process, certainly my thought process at the moment is, and all the vibes would seem to suggest, that the club feel Sinsalo is going to then replace Schmeichel when he leaves, which will probably be at the end of this season. But does Sinsalo stay for this season and play back up to Kasper Schmeichel? Or is there an argument to send him out on loan somewhere where he's going to play every single game and therefore be better prepared to step into the void left by Schmeichel? Now, that conversation will obviously have taken place, and the manager did hint that he wasn't sure which way that was going to go. It now seems as if he's made a decision and Sinsalo will stay, but he was asked, was he going to be the cup goalkeeper for the season? And he didn't commit to that, but he did say, if he's going to stay with us for the season, then I need to get him game time. How do you think he played, and what's your general thought? Do you see him being the next Celtic goalkeeper?
I think it's a way just to sort of work him in with giving Schmeichel the respect he deserves as an experienced keeper that's came here and played really, really well for us. I think if you look at Sinsalo right now, he's got other attributes, I think, to step in. The fact that he was able to save that Calvin Miller shot, that shows your experience. That's one of these intangibles you're looking for a young goalie that come in. It's like, okay, can you still bring pull off a brilliant save when you're not seeing any of the ball, when we've been attacking the whole time, and then bang, you get this absolutely snapshot that comes in, bang, you have to fully stretch yourself and make a save. There was a couple of saves that he made early on that was really good. Also, I think his distribution is so much better than Schmeichel, that getting that ball up and out and up the park and various ways you're throwing it, kicking it, just having that vision as well to see the open player. His play for the back is good when he's just at his feet. I think what we're going to do this year, I think you're going to have to see like how well Schmeichel weathers, that shoulder injury, whether it shows up to affect it. But I'll make a prediction right now. I think Sinsalo finishes the season. I think when we're going into the end yet, whether we're in a title race, cups, whatever it is, I think we're going to see, as I predict right now, the last 10 games we play this year, Sinsalo will be in goals, because I think he's a really, really good keeper.
There's something about Schmeichel that I've just noticed in one of the pre-season games. I think it was Ajax, and then I seen it again on Sunday. Now, it didn't end up in a goal on Sunday. He made a save, but against Ajax, it did end up. There was one that went into his left-hand top corner. But he was diving across with his right arm, and to me, obviously, I'm not a goalkeeper, but I would have thought it's more natural for you to dive to your left with your left arm outstretched than to try and come across with your right. And I've not seen. I don't know if it's something that he's always done, but I've just noticed it twice across those couple of games, and it just looked a little bit unnatural to me. And I think that the right shoulder was the one that he's injured. So again, that would be surprising if it's anything to do with the injury, but it's maybe one just to keep an eye on.
So Terry, I was looking at him as well when he was playing that first game to see if he was throwing the ball with the right arm. You know, like if he was throwing it, and then no, he was launching it, he was kicking it, and that's usually like that's the one that really you can tell if your arm's better when you're doing that overhead, when you're throwing it out with intent. And I didn't see any of that for him, and that's what I was hoping to see, because that would tell me that he's no bother, it's fine, But if you're favouring and stuff like that, that's not going to be a secret very long. It wasn't a secret in Aberdeen, so you just got to watch that from him. And the first sign of weakness that we see in that, then I think you got to rest him properly and say, okay, well, what does it take to get you back to full recovery mode? And in the sense of that, that's why we need to keep sending Salah. We can't be sending him out. Who else do we have? Doohan, Ross Doohan, But I'm happy to see Schmeichel. I like Schmeichel as a goalie, but I don't think we're going to end the season with him. It's going to be Sinisalo.
It's one to keep an eye on. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out. Shortly after half-time, 2-0, Alistair Johnson, he starts the move, you could say, by pressing when Falkirk have tried to play out from the back. Very, very cool finish on his wrong foot.
Yeah, anybody seen me play when I was younger, that was my move. Coming in for that position. I thought it was an absolute peachy goal, and it was absolutely... and not only that, the way it was a give and go as well, you could see the way it was set up. He got a really good ball. I think it was Forrester, McCowan, knocked it onto him. He had a wee sort of shimmy to beat the first defence. So he still had a defender to beat, came in, and I thought he absolutely just picked that corner. I mean, that was Cliff Thornburn, Kirk Stevens, all your great Canadian snooker players, bang, right in that corner. Yeah, well done, Ali.
The temptation would have been, I think, to try and get it onto your right-hand side, but he had the composure and the awareness to go with it with the left. It was an excellent finish. And I think you're going to see Alistair Johnson popping up there with lots of goals this season, lots of goals, lots of assists. And I also think Tierney looks as if he's going to get a goal at some point soon. I wouldn't put it past him to do it at Ibrox. I would love it to happen. Another couple of minutes and we're 3-0 up and the game's over as a contest. It comes from one of those whipped in corners from Engels. Real good delivery. All it needed was a head to make sure it was in the net, and it was the guy that signed his contract extension today, Dane Murray. Not often we get one from a corner, Liam.
No, not often. And as we were talking about that as well, all the guys, when we're going to score for a corner, who have we got? And they're thinking, oh, well, Scales isn't on. But Dane Murray, I thought he looked really good in that corner. Dane Murray, see if Dane Murray started today and he had an Eastern European name, Dane Moravcik or something like that. Moravcik, no. But I thought he looked really good. And I thought that header, when you watch the replay and you see how high he actually was above everybody else in that pitch to get to that ball, and his technique and everything, it wasn't a fluke in any way. It was absolutely brilliant header for a corner. And we had so much good deliveries in there. It's nice to know that we've got another threat in there that's tall, muscular, and can battle for corners. We don't seem to battle. We had a lot of guys like, Kyogo, Maeda and all that. We need a couple of big battlers in there. Scales does it now and again. CCV doesn't have the height. He's got the body strength. And, it's nice to see somebody come in and do that. And honestly, yeah, you could just see how everybody was really chuffed for him as well. The amount that you could see how happy everybody was for him, signing a new contract and then scoring a goal on that day. And as a young guy, it's grew up supporting Celtic, and I think he did. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You want to see that, and again, I feel good going into these European games where knowing that another homegrown player is in there in the squad that could be there on merit and actually looks okay, that if he does come in, he'll be okay, and not just there because he's Scottish or homegrown, So
the game's done at that stage. The manager then rings the changes. So we have Shin replacing Johnny Kenny. Yang comes on the left for Faizan. Liam Scales replaces Tierney. back. Yang, within 2 minutes, you're giving him that one. A bit of wizardry on the left. Nice shimmy from him. Shifts it onto his left. Dangerous cross. Defender puts it into his own net. Is this the next reincarnation of Yang as a Celtic player?
I mean, Yo-Yo. It's like it should be Yo-Yo. It's just yin and yang. You don't Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know which one you're going to get. I thought when he came on, he looked really lively. I've not gave up on him yet, but a lot of that is just because he's trying to be so positive right now with all this shit that's going on with Celtic, those signing players. You're looking for any sign of hope that you can find. And when I saw Yang come on, I thought he looked good when he came on. He played well. He stretched him. He went at them. But it's Falkirk, you know. Do I want to see Yang coming on to try and change a European game? I don't know. You don't know which one you're going to get. You're going to get Yin or Yang. You know, today we got Yang.
And that's the thing. If you think back to that Bayern game when he came on, he was only on for about 10 or 15 minutes, but he was excellent then. And you just see flashes and you think, yeah, do you know what? There is something in there. But I think when he retires, that will still be your thought process. There was something in there, but it just never came out often enough.
It might be a confidence thing with him, Terry, because best games he had was when his girlfriend was here. So you show, you know what I mean? Like sometimes.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know.
You know, it's like when you're playing with guys where we played for a game. We played a game one night when I was playing indoor, like back in Toronto, and somebody brought out all the go-go dancers with this nightclub as cheerleaders with the DJ that used to play us, and he thought it'd be a laugh. You want to see the heroics that were going on that night. All of a sudden, everybody was played out of their skin. I think he's one of these guys that just needs motivation, you know, and a bit of confidence in that. And I saw he needs, you know, and when his girlfriend was living in Glasgow, that's when he had his best games. So get her back in Glasgow. You know, needs that.
Yeah, it does feel, Liam, though, that if we had sufficient bodies in, it feels like perhaps he would be one that leaves the club. But before we just go on to look at what the next couple of weeks hold for Celtic, Falkirk then get a goal back. Cracking finish from the lawyer, qualified with a law degree. Any fault on anyone for that? I think it was just a great strike. When I seen it first, I thought maybe could Scales have closed him down a bit more. I don't think you're anticipating the shot, and he strikes it really, really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, Scales sort of turned into the near post and then came back out. But yeah, it was an unbelievable strike. You couldn't fault Sinisalo for that as well. And it was like, okay, yeah, it was a very, very, very good goal. So, yeah, you're right. I couldn't think anybody at fault in that. Could Stales have done better? I don't think so, you know.
Okay, so we're getting into a 2-week period, give or take a couple of days, that I believe are going to define our entire season. The best case scenario that I see is we qualify for the Champions League, we get in 3 to 4 quality upgrades, first team players, and we win at Ibrox. That's the best scenario.
Right.
The absolute worst, unimaginable, unthinkable scenario is we don't qualify for the Champions League, we don't get anybody good in, or we get players in who are just shit and, you know, the usual sort of squad fillers, and we lose at Ibrox. I'm pretty hopeful that we can do all three in terms of positive outcomes. Now, that's a bit far-fetched in terms of bringing in quality additions, but what I think will happen is I think we'll get through against Karat on Matty. Now, to give you an idea of their level, they've only qualified for the group stages of European competition once. I think it was either the conference or the Europa. I think it was the conference. I could be wrong on that. But Celtic's odds to win the game tonight were 1-10. Celtic's odds to beat St Mirren in the home game at the start of the season was 1-10. This Celtic's odds to beat this team in the home game is 1-10. So in terms of their level, this team is going to be somewhere in and around the likes of your St Mirren,
Aye.
Hibs, maybe Hibs. I don't know. I'd say St Mirren. The only thing then that makes this a dangerous proposition is the two variables of the journey and the heat. No, they're going to have the reverse of that. They're going to have the journey to Glasgow, and they're going to have the cold and the pushing rain. But I think we'll get the job done against them. I don't know that it'll be complete plain sailing because of those two variables, but you're hoping you get the job done comfortably enough on Wednesday night that you go away and you've got a little bit of slack, because it will be a bit of a challenge, because it'll be a game played in conditions that this team isn't playing in regularly. But I think we'll get the job done against Carragh.
Well, I think what you've seen today is a blueprint for that. I heard Roger saying that when he was coming out, and this is the way Ange used to play as well, you come out explosive and you absolutely just try to shock and awe them, to use an old expression, but you come out flying and just completely devour them. Don't let them settle. Don't get with a, Celtic Park atmosphere. A whole bit. They've probably never played a game anywhere in the world as big as what they're going to play on Wednesday night in Celtic Park and in front of that crowd. So our job is to do what we did today. It's just come out, balls firing into the box, and then hopefully our finishing is a lot more clinical on Wednesday night. And I don't know if that's going to be Adamida in the middle. I hope, dies in Maeda. But right now with the players we have, I agree. We should be able to finish this mob. I mean, come on.
I
talking
think
about teams on the border of China, in the European competition here, and it's like, it's not like it's a big name we're playing. It was a lot. I was really hoping we wouldn't get Basel and teams like that. So to get this team, I think we'd be looking at a gift course. Where what that's done is it's given this board and it's given Rodgers a wee bit of an extension to get some players in. And I think what that will do is that will drive the team. The guys that are there, hopefully he can motivate them that, all right, you're the guys that are going to get us into the Champions League, and then see what happens from there. But I'm fully positive we should be able to demolish this team at home, and then just show up. I mean, look at the guys on the other side of the City did with this Victoria Pilsen team. They're no mugs. They've seen Victoria Pilsen in loads of different competitions. I don't know if we played them, but I've seen them loads, and it was like 3-0 home, and then it was like 2-1 or something away, and that job done. And I think that's what we have to look at: get the job done, finish this tie at home, and don't worry about the flight out there. So
Rubber Duck also makes the point that Carragh are midway through their season. I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about all the things. I was thinking about the flight, and I was thinking, well, Celtic players will be flying out in first class conditions and all of that. And then I sort of caught myself on a wee bit and thought, do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they were booked on the cheapest flight possible, in Celtic. But the part about the game, or the other team being halfway through their season, I think it is a valid one. You could argue it a different way, that Celtic should be fresher because we're just a couple of games into our season. It's one of those ones. It could play out. It could play out one or two ways. Do you know what I mean? We might be fresher, and that gives us a bit more impetus, or they might be a bit more battle hardened because they're halfway through their season. But either way, regardless of the challenges, I think they will present challenges, and I think they're valid challenges. But I think we get the job done. There might be a few nervy moments here and there, but we'll get through. We'll get through. The second part of my best scenario was that we get in 3 to 4 quality first team additions. Not sure. That's probably the most difficult out of the 3, to be honest, because there's nothing to suggest that that's going to happen. I think this window has been. My own thoughts are it's been terrible. We're undercooked. I get the strategy where they don't want to gamble on whether we get through or not, but the fact that you don't tool up, that's a gamble in itself, because you're gambling with the qualification. But that one's for another day. What do I think is going to happen over the next 2 weeks? I think we'll bring in at least 3, possibly 4. Will they be of a better quality than what we've got? I'm not sure. I think Balikwisha will happen. I think that's been one that we knew all summer it will happen, but for whatever reason it will go down to the wire. I think that one will happen. I get the feeling that Strelic might happen. It's not one that gets me excited, if I'm being honest with you. He played against our opponents twice there, and he didn't do a great deal, if I'm being honest with you. But I think it just reeks of these guys are on a list, and we're now going back to a list that should have been through in the bin last summer or the summer before, and there's been absolutely no planning. There's, Kyogo's been gone 8 months now,
right?
And
2 teams ago,
we're still going back to an old name that was visited months and months and months ago. But I think those 2 could potentially come in. And maybe a lone winger, given that Jota's due back in the new year. Could we bring in someone maybe just January, possibly, and maybe another loan at left back to cover Tierney. I'm not overly excited about the business. I don't see us bringing in somebody that is going to get me too excited, but that's where my thoughts are. I think we will get players in. I think we'll qualify. I think we'll get players in. I'm not convinced they'll be players who are definitely better than what we've got there already.
Terry, they rinse every single bit of joy out of us. This board and all that. And honestly, I'll be really disappointed when you get to this sort of stage in the transfer window and all that, and you look what's being passed on, you look what's happening, what's being worked. Oh, we're working hard and all that, and you don't see anything happening. Then at this point, you're expecting, it's 3 or 4 signings coming. Come on, where's the surprise and delight? That's one of these advertising things we use. Where you talk about Dermot Desmond talking about value and shite this week. So where's the value for the fans? At some point, when you extend it to this amount of time before, signing adequate replacements for people, you're expecting something really big. It's like you ask somebody to work on something for you and it takes them ages and you come back and it's really underwhelming. It's like, well, what have you been doing that entire time? I'm expecting somebody to come in. When I hear that we're going to get Balikwisha, or however you pronounce his name, or even Broom at this point, and that's what's going to get over the line. But it's going to get over the line after a pre-season, after a chance where they could be settled into the team. That makes no sense to me. So see if they get those 2 now, yeah, I'd be disappointed in the signings. None of them lit a fire under me watching anything in their reels, which is all the best shit they've ever done. Have said to me, oh yeah, come on, we have to push the boat out to get one of these 2 guys. Nothing. So you're hoping that, okay, well, we're waiting to see what happens with the window. We're saying that players are coming back for pre-season. Players are getting, they're not getting in the squads for the European League, so there's going to be players out there that didn't get included in their squad. So you're expecting Celtic to pull out some sort of name, anything that's going to get a bit of excitement amongst the fans, but also as well, excite the players that are there. Bring in another player. Bring a fucking baller that knows what he's doing, that's got some European pedigree as well, so that you've got another role model in the team, another leader. And that's what we're needing right now. And if they bring in a couple of gambles, I mean, I don't know Balikwisha for Louis Palmer. There's probably not that much of a difference in them. And so for us to be taking this time And then all of a sudden, we've done it. We've got him over the line, and he comes into the team in his rank. Yeah, it just shows you this board. It's like they've yeah, I don't know what's happening with our recruitment. We've had every opportunity. We didn't have to sell players to raise money, to raise funds. We should have had our players identified, and it should have been brought in the beginning of this window. My biggest fear this year is we go through all this, and then next year's going to be a massive, massive rebuild with a new coach and all that. But I want to make sure we're champions this year as well. I want Celtic every year to be the champions and win. I don't take a year off. I don't expect the board to take a year off.
I quite liked the look of Balikwisha when we were first interested in him, but I think it's because it's dragged on this long. I'm kind of bored of it now. And if it had happened at the time, it's probably one that I would be excited about. I think he might be okay if he comes in. And do you know what? Strelic might as well, or whoever comes in. I think we just keep an open mind. But the third part of that we won't touch on obviously tonight because it's a couple of weeks down the line. But I just really wanted to sort of ring fence this 2-week period. We could qualify for the Champions League. We could bring in the signings that we've been yearning all summer, and we could beat Rangers at Ibrox. How good would that be going into September, having done all of that? And it's achievable. It's very achievable. If as I say, probably the two most likely bits are we qualify for the Champions League and we win at Ibrox. It's the other bit that doesn't rely on the manager and the current playing squad. But if we could achieve those three, we could be set up for another season of dominance, Liam.
Well, you said it, those three, right? So the three was, the European qualified for Europe, Rangers game, signed 4 players. So two of those, there's other people, like, you don't know if you can do it. Sign players, we know you can. So that should be something that we're hoping for. That should be something that's like, okay, that should get done. How is that not getting done? That we all need. We are about 4 players away to having a really good team, even just to have a good squad, so that we can go and we can play in all these tournaments, all these different cup competitions, and do well. Because right now we're so threadbare, and it's not even like any of the guys in the B team are ready to come and step up. So I think if you're looking at what we have to do, the one thing that we can absolutely control, the one thing that we can afford, is sign those 3 or 4 players that are coming in. And I think we need to get some sort of marquee player in there. Supposedly we did make an up. We supposedly we did talk to Jack Grealish. I thought he would have been an amazing signing for Celtic. But anyway, I'd love to see us go out and see if we can find one of those, like a good experienced player that will come in and help us in these qualifications. If it's if it's just another player that comes in, Arnie Engels, I mean, as you said, we played well today, but 11 million we paid for an experiment. That was when we've already done that before. We just never played that much money. I don't think he's that much better than Paulo Bernardo, but his price tag makes sure that he starts in front of him. He's not even that much better than Luke McCowan, but the same thing. He gets a lot more chances within Celtic than those guys will because of that price tag. So, yeah, I just hope our scouting's got somebody identified. But Terry, there's no rumours. There's no anything out there right now. I always thought there was an absolute baller, an American boy called Diego Luna that's trying to get into the US national team. And this is a guy who's got like a Moravchik vibe about him. He's tricky, he's hard. He's like one of these young Mexican kids that grew up in the USA. So he's like, he's got a bit of girth about him as well. No saying Maradona, but I mean, there's players out there that we could bring into Celtic that will not just work into the team well, but excite the fans, and show that we've actually got a global scouting network and we're looking farther than players we've played against or players that have played for us before.
100%. That's been an hour, Liam. We will call it a night. at this point.
Right.
I'll be back on again after the CARRMAGEDDON game during the week. Thanks to everyone who's joined the podcast tonight. Thanks for your continued support. I think we have to caveat everything with it was Falkirk, Liam. Obviously, it was Falkirk. It's a team that suits us because the manager wants them to come out and play, and it leaves them very open. But you can only beat what's in front of you. The performances have steadily improved over the course of the 3 competitive games. Let's see what Wednesday night brings. Hopefully we're sitting on Wednesday night having a conversation about a comfortable victory that sets us up for qualification. Thanks very much, Liam, for joining us. I'll now play the outro, and remember to hit our buttons. Cheers. Thank you, everyone.
All right, see you.